starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Salaam Alaikum. Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies.
Wassalatu wassalam Rasulullah wa ba'd. In the name of Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His last and final messenger. Family, friends, foes, haters, and hateettes, welcome back to the Feachaz. I greet you all in peace and love with no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So before we begin, please like, please subscribe, and please share. As you know, we got a lot of haters up in here. And family, we got two very special guests today. One of the therapists unfortunately couldn't make it, but we have two therapists with us today, two black therapists, two Muslim therapists who know very well about our issues in our community. And the topic that we chosen for today is dealing with how what is perceived as black culture impacts black children. And this is a situation that we have been dealing with for many a decades, okay? Because what is being perceived as black culture has nothing to do with black people. This is stuff, these are things that are superimposed upon us to elicit certain behaviors from black children. And now we have almost you could say 3 to 4 solid decades of this type of perpetuation and this type of you could say like a war of attrition within black families. And now that we are seeing what is going on with the black family, we are now uh you know in a position to combat it, especially as Muslims. So I want to introduce my guests. Let's bring them on. Okay, we have brother Tariq James and sister Michelle Renee Davis. Salaam Alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you guys doing?
Alhamdulillah, good.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. These two are therapists within our community, right? So we want to welcome them with open arms and warm hearts and all that kind of stuff. And let's get down to the nitty gritty. So first, we'll start with Sister Michelle Renee, our special regular guest here. Will just tell us a little about yourself, Sister Michelle.
Yes,
I'll let the audience know who you are. Go ahead.
Alhamdulillah. So I am Michelle Renee Davis. I have my own private practice called Where Faith Meets Mental Health that's located in Philadelphia. I am a practicing trauma specialist. I have my license in Pennsylvania. So that's basically what I do in a nutshell, just trying to help people navigate life and to be their authentic self who Allah has created us to be, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. And Brother Tariq James, please introduce yourself to us.
Yes, my name is Tariq James. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm also in private practice. I see couples, people with relationship issues, and just in general, people who want an Islamically integrated approach to therapy. Um, I've been in the field for a while. A lot of my early experience has been with children and children who actually have been in the juvenile justice system.
Okay, excellent. Jazakumullah khair. So we know very well that culture has a profound effect on the behavior of people, right? And we can see, particularly within Black society, the wider Black society, there has been a monetization and a very strong push to push debaucherous culture amongst Black people, right? So, Brother Tariq James, he mentioned that he deals with folks or young. I'm assuming young men within the justice
Yeah,
system, correct? Right.
yes. So yeah, I dealt with a lot of young men that was in the juvenile justice system, and also even in the adult system as well,
Mm.
in adult corrections as well.
How many times have you come across a generational effect? Like the father would be within the system, and then next thing you know, the son is in the system. How many times have you seen this?
A lot, a lot. I mean, so I've seen situations where there's definitely been a lot of situations where I may have worked at a placement and, family visit happens and dad was like, yeah, I remember how it was when I was up here, you
Mhm.
know, uncle, brothers that might have been there. Even in adult system, looking at some of the state prisons, we've had inmates who had their brother on another side of the jail, or their father, or their uncles on another side of the jail. So that's actually very common.
Mhm. And when you're at work, what would you do in terms of preventative types of therapy to kind of help these young men not end up back into the system again?
Mm. It's a good question. So I like to think that I take an integrative approach. I mean, normally, a lot of times I do draw from like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, but I look at my approach as integrative because at the end of the day, every single person, I'm looking at it like every single person that's walking through the door, I'm creating their own therapy program basically.
Mm, yes.
Because I'm trying to get to know them. I'm trying to build rapport. I'm trying to understand the inner workings of their world and really try to meet them where they're at.
Mm,
So, I mean, a lot of times, yeah, you're looking at I am looking at maybe you know unhealthy thinking patterns,
mhm,
um, trying to introduce healthy coping skills and that sort of thing. But it's really done in a way that's meeting them where they at. And I use whatever I can to do that. Whether I ain't no shame in my game. So if we gotta talk about a particular song to do that, then that's what I'll do. You know what I mean? If we gotta talk about lyrics, or if we gotta talk about a particular movie to do that, that's what I'll do. If we gotta
mhm,
talk about your neighborhood and what that means to you, that's what I'll do. So definitely, you try to make it very real and relevant.
mhm. Sister Michelle Renee, you had something to add?
Well, so I totally agree with him. Like I take an integrative approach. Mine's look a little bit different. That's why I say in general, like I'll say to guys like that I meet, I say, I can be a therapist, but you should still get a coach, a male coach, because I take on more of a different kind of approach where I say, I'll be whatever it is that you need me to be. So if that means that you had issues with your mom, I'll be your mom for a little bit. And we can work through that issues, that those problems that you had. I can be that sister who abused you. I can be their father who abused you, and we can work through that and do empty chair techniques and do different kinds of activities to help them process whatever it is that they're going through. So I definitely do. And depending on obviously personality, I adjust my personality to meet their needs. And I think that that's where a lot of other people go wrong, where they try to do a one size fit all shoe with
Yeah,
clients, and that's not the case. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said you have to speak the language of the people, and speaking the language of the people may be, I gotta use some swearing words because that's all they know.
Yeah.
That they mean that I have to, make my vocabulary so immaculate so that they can pay attention, whatever that may be that you may need. And those assessments come really, really quickly. And you're like, okay, I'm always judging that person to see what can I do differently to improve our therapeutic rapport.
Mhm.
yeah,
Now, I know about y'all, but the way that we're describing what's going on with Black youth, particularly, right? We're seeing patterns now, because now it's like I mentioned before, it's like almost 40 solid years of this type of generational um, uh, uh, thing that kind of crept into the wider Black society, so much so that has now become a systemic type thing, right? Where it's kind of expected within certain segments of Black society
Mhm.
to act a certain way, and we're seeing it unfold within what is being perceived as Black culture. one of the one of these brothers out here in Ottawa, right? He's a new Muslim as well, and he ended up in prison for what was it? It was a robbery. Okay. Now this is before he became Muslim, right? And his brother was murdered in this robbery, right? So his brother died, and he ended up in prison in Florida, and they were giving him and the youth in this particular correctional facility, they would give them devices to listen to music. You know what they were giving them to listen to? The black youth. Maybe you know better than me. They were giving them drill music.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
Yeah, so they would be
Yeah.
listening to drill on hours and hours and hours on end in uh, the um, the correctional facility. These people are trying to correct the behavior.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But what's happening with the black youth is that they are nurturing this type of debaucherous behavior.
Mhm.
All right. So, how would you guys address something like this, for example?
So this something being as though there is a prison system, that would have to be addressed on a legal aspect. Like it would have to go
Mm-hmm.
to government and change legislations about the things that are happening in the prisons, and bring forth like evidence about how things that we listen to, it seeps into our unconscious, so we start behaving like that even if we don't agree with things like that.
Exactly.
It's been times, in my past, listen to some crazy music and I'm like, oh, but I don't believe that, but find myself doing that because that's what you're listening to, and it's become an unconscious rule that you develop in your brain, which becomes habits, and habits are very, very hard to break. And
Mhm.
so if you're giving people those kinds of music to be listened to for hours and hours on end, they're going to behave like that. It's
Mhm.
not even if they're going to behave like that, it's they
Mm-hmm.
are going to
They
behave.
will be. Yes. Go ahead, brother Tariq.
Mm,
Yeah. So just putting it out there, like so part of why I got into private practice is because, um, I had worked in the system for a while, and just to be honest with you, um, what I seen happening was counterproductive to what we want for our young black youth, and that was the biggest reason for getting out of it, because I realized that it was more of a systemic issue, not necessarily just like we don't got enough black therapists working there, or or
mhm,
just the institution. It's all across the board, with the entire system. And I mean, I've seen it from both sides, and I think so. I don't have any issues with self disclosure. A lot of times I don't, and I'm very careful with how I do it. But I do talk about my life sometimes because, in those situations I've had that shared experience. I was a youth that was I got caught up on some charged as an adult, went
mhm,
through the juvenile system, got through it by the mercy of Allah,
mhm,
and changed my life, and got into this position. So, you know, I don't hide that, and I never did when I worked in the system. I never hid that. Um, so honestly, I would be straight up, like, I would be straight up a lot of times with those guys, like, okay, yeah, so and so shared this with you, and they said you can listen to it. You think so and so cool, but like, you don't really understand, like, your best interest not really at heart, because you might be getting this music just to kind of quiet you down so you don't cause no issues. Because what they really think about you is that, like, you can't be controlled, so we just got to give you something that's going to pacify you for that moment, right?
Mhm.
You're not being looked at as a being with potential that can be cultivated. You're
mhm,
being looked at as just somebody that we have to pacify so we can get through the shift, because we don't want no issues. You know, anybody that works in the system, they know, like, you want to do your 8 and skate.
mhm,
You might do a little overtime, but you want that to be as peaceful as possible.
Mhm.
So, I don't be divisive about it, but I always was honest. Like, okay, yeah, they giving that to you, and little sometimes rules are being overlooked, or certain things is happening and it looks cool, but like, look at the bigger picture. The people that's giving this to you, how do they live their lives? Do they go home and listen to drill music? Are they
No.
going home and doing all this stuff? But
Mm.
but they'll give it to you, you know.
Yes.
So
And even if they are listening to it, it's to laugh at us.
exactly,
Yes. Yes. 100%.
exactly.
100%. There's a big difference between folks who appropriate the culture because they can go back into their suburbs and whatnot. And if you look at, for example, Lear Cohen, you know who Lear Cohen is, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He's one of the moguls of hip hop music, gangster rap, right? A Jewish guy, right? He's got a wife, he's got a family, and he profited greatly off the destruction of the black community.
Mhm.
You know, and this is way back in the '90s when gangster rap just started, right? So, what it is today, it's a totally different beast because back in those days, the rappers would brag about being gangsters and drug dealers. Now the rappers are being bragging about being drug addicts
Mhm.
and having chlamydia and stuff. Like they're bragging about having STDs and stuff. Look at what's that girl name? Sexy Red,
Mhm.
right? And this is the direction that we find that is essentially you can tell very well that this modus operandi, this mo, is something that is exclusive to black society, right?
Mhm.
As no other folks try to monetize the destruction of their own community, right? It's something that is exclusive to black folk, right? Which is why therapists, and I always, and the sister Michelle Renee knows, I always push for black folk to seek therapy, right? Because we operate as individuals,
Mhm.
and as long as we keep operating like that, it's just going to be the same old thing, right? Everything in our existence,
Mhm.
you know, is used as weaponry against us, from our culture to our wealth, to the separating our families, to having a ridiculous amount of black men go on through the system, even generationally, which is why therapists are very, very, very important. We cannot undermine the work of a therapist. I just had to get that on my chest. But I know I rambled
Yeah.
on a little bit. I'm supposed to let you all
No,
speak.
you brought up something really interesting,
Mhm,
um, because within drill music, within gangster rap,
mhm.
there is an appeal, right? Because a lot of that is an expression of anger.
Yeah.
The anger, growing up, in a bad neighborhood with very few examples of like what strength looks like.
Hmm.
You don't understand what strength looks like, really.
Hmm.
A lot of
Yes.
times the drug dealers, the gangsters, those type of people, and it's not correct by
Hmm.
any means. It's not correct by any means, but they end up being, especially if you don't have those male role models in your life directly,
Hmm.
they end up being those people that you aspire to be because that's a symbol of strength. That's a symbol of manhood, right? As twisted as it may be, as
Hmm.
misguided as it may be. And I think that's really important. And I always thought that was very important in my work to really try to tap into that anger and try to really identify that anger and try to place it somewhere else. Because, to be a black man or be a black woman in America, that means that you are angry about some things, right?
Of
Mhm.
course.
Because
Of
because
course. Are you kidding me?
yeah,
Are you kidding me? Of course.
right. So you don't know what it is, and I know being a young guy growing up, like I don't know what exactly it is. I don't know what it is that I'm necessarily angry about in
Mhm.
terms of the broader society. I just know something ain't right.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I just know something ain't right. So whatever everybody else saying I'm gonna do, whatever everybody else is saying I need to do, I'm just doing the opposite of that because this is how I'm supposed to get it. These are the images that were placed in front of me through the
Mhm.
media, through music, through movies. these are just, so I'm just fulfilling that role. So a lot of the work is identifying that anger and just trying to show like, yo,
Isis papers. Sorry,
it's
I was
trying to,
trying to get my wife to get me a book. Keep going, keep going.
okay, yeah, no, it's just trying to identify that anger and show like, yo, there's a different way, to express that.
Mhm.
There's a different way to be successful. You know what I mean? And this is what it looks like.
One
And I think
hundred
it is
percent.
key to have that experience as well, because sometimes if you, a lot of times talk to youth, they will look at it like, okay, well, nah, you had it good. You had both your parents, or you lived in a good neighborhood, or you went to school,
Mhm.
and that's why I felt compelled a lot of times to just share like, yo, I was just like you, man.
Mhm. But
Not
also,
You
exactly
know,
the same.
brother Tariq. Ironically enough, right? Islam. I know it sounds like a cliche, but Islam is actually the solution
mhm,
for the
Hands
wider
down.
Black society, and how Islam has been used against Black people. I want to say since around early 2000s or so, right? It has been used the same way that Christianity has been used, you
mhm,
know, as a method to pacify and
mhm,
quiet the noise of Black folks. Because before, particularly in the 90s and before, Islam was the voice that was bringing Black folks out of the gutter, right? And then when the foreigners started coming in, and then they start telling us, "Oh, you can't talk about that race stuff. There's no racism in Islam," and blah blah blah. And next thing you know, we start repeating what they are telling us and using Islam to help them while ignoring our own folks. You
yeah,
get me?
spiritual gaslighting, and
Yes.
yeah, a spiritual gaslighting where they'll use
Yeah.
something true in a religion to
Mm.
try to justify whatever it is their own agenda. Um,
Yes.
but also too, I remember I was watching this video where I wish I would know you was going to talk about that, because the woman was talking about she was a white woman, about how our society, Black Muslims, experience being Muslims started mirroring overseas, as if our problems are their
Their
problem.
problems. Yeah.
And
Hmm.
it's not our, we have unique problems that other
Mm.
cultures do not have that needs to be addressed.
Mm.
But one of the things that I really, really wish that people will understand is, and really, really understand, like just really, really get this one point. They're selling you trauma
Mm.
because trauma is $1 billion industry. If
Mm.
I can get you messed up in the head, I know, because you know how they say, oh, weed is a gateway drug. No, trauma is a gateway drug. You experience trauma, poverty, you're more likely to sell drugs, use drugs, shopping addiction, losing your home. Like you're more likely to have a single parent home. It compounds and it stacks against you. So
Mm.
until we start to realize that our slavery just looks different,
Yeah.
Hmm.
that's because it's slavery. It just looks different,
Mm.
and
Mm.
wake up and smell the coffee. I don't like
Mm.
roses like that, so we're gonna say coffee because I could drink some coffee.
Mm.
But people need to understand that we're still enslaved. Our mind is enslaved. And how
Mm.
you know that you're enslaved, I always tell people to ask yourself this one question: why do you do the things that you do? If you
Mm.
say, I don't know,
Mm.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that means you're operating in this world with no clue about what you're doing, why you're doing it. You're just doing it, which means you're doing everything out of habits. All those habits that you got was because you were programmed to have those habits, and now you're doing them and operating them in them.
Mm. Go ahead, brother Tark.
Nah, I mean that's spot on. That's spot
Mm.
on. You know, I think it's very I think it's even stronger when you don't have to have physical shackles and physical barriers to block people from doing certain things. But when they already just kind of like have been conditioned to just move in a certain direction, I mean that's even more powerful, because you don't have to put a lot of effort in controlling, because
Exactly.
you're going to do exactly what you want to do. Um, so,
If you've enslaved the mind, there's no need to
Mm,
control the body.
nope,
Right? The body always follows the mind.
absolutely.
All
That's why
right.
even on a day of judgment, what's going to happen to us? our limbs is going to start speaking against us, and they're going to say that they did what we commanded our limbs to do.
Yeah.
They're going to speak against us.
Yep. Yep. 100%. So I have this book here, right? Let me see. Oh, I'm on the camera's on the side. Okay. So this book, The ISIS Papers by the late great Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, right? So she has a very powerful story in here. I just want to try to find it, right?
Mhm.
And get you guys to get your 2 cents in here. 1 second. Let me try to find it first. Second here. Okay. See, I should have looked for this first. 1 second. Oh, here we go. This back here. Ah, yeah, got it. Yep. Okay, so she's talking about her experience because she's for those of you who don't know who Dr. Frances Cress Wilson is. She's a world-renowned, you could say, psychiatrist, black psychiatrist, right? And she's the one way back in the 70s that she said the reason why white folks are the way that they are in terms of racism and white supremacy is because they are worried about white genetic annihilation. She's the one who said that. Okay. Now, what are white folks saying? They're talking about great replacement theory. Great replacement theory is white, it's the same thing. Right. And people were calling her crazy. If you've seen her interviews on Donahue, whatever, ain't nobody saying she crazy now. Okay. But anyways, she is a psychiatrist, right? And she's talking about her like some of the common um, things that come up when she's dealing with young black girls. Okay, right. So she's saying, and I'm quoting from her book on page 260. She says, "The following comments have been made to me by black teenagers. This is in the 70s, mind you, late 70s, who are either have become parents or are contemplating becoming parents. Dr. Wilson, I'm 16. I know I'm grown. Dr. Wilson, I'm going to have my baby. Nobody's going to take my baby from me. I'm not going to let those doctors kill my baby. I'm not going to have an abortion. Dr. Wilson, all of my friends have babies. I want something of my own too. I'm not going to have an abortion. I'm going to love my baby. Dr. Wilson, my baby's going to love me. I want somebody to love me. My mother and father don't love me. Nobody loves me. My parents act like teenagers. They don't know what they're doing. Dr. Wilson, I know I can take care of my baby. Uh, no, Dr. Wilson, my boyfriend doesn't have a job, any job, and he's gonna take care of me and my baby. He says he can. He's 17. He's gonna get us an apartment. No, we didn't just finish school. No, we didn't finish school. We don't go to school anymore. I mean, we go, but we don't need no classes. Dr. Wilson, if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have no baby when I'm young. I just didn't know no better. Dr. Wilson, my boyfriend, he's gone. I thought he wanted the baby too. Dr. Wilson, I'm 19. My boyfriend, he's 19. He gets mad at my baby. It's our baby when he cries. He hit the baby one time. Sometimes I feel like hitting that baby too. Dr. Wilson, I just didn't know how to be no father. I had never had a father at home. Dr. Wilson, my girlfriend can take care of the baby by herself with welfare. Dr. Wilson, my mother had me when she was 15. I don't see why she's telling me I don't want my baby. I don't see why I can't do what she did. So she continues to say, all the above statements have been made by teenage children. These are not unusual statements. Teachers, social workers, doctors, counselors working with the young black people have heard similar comments as uh, as they talk to black teenagers in the U.S., uh, where the incidence of black children parenting has reached epidemic proportions. Okay, now this book here, the ISIS papers. Let me try to find this here. It was the this book here was published in 1991. Okay, 1991. These are 12 statements that she says are common amongst Black youth. Have you guys heard these statements?
From adolescent girls, yes, but not
Hmm.
from boys.
Yeah.
From girls, yes.
Yeah.
Has much changed?
No, because again, a lot of so well, not again, but one of the things that I'm noticing too is that a lot of our culture now is shifting from reality based to I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people feelings are your reality, but they not the reality. And we have a hard time with separating, truth from fiction. Um, and one of the things that I do is I try to help even adults. I have adults where they're like, "Oh, my mom don't love me," or this, that, and the third, and then I have to go through them with their. I understand that you have a love that you want to be met in a certain kind of way, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that person can give it to you in that kind of way. And you have to also identify how other people show love.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is like for me, like I'm not really touchy feely kind of person. So when I had my first son, and it's funny because he didn't get a lot of hugs from me, but I show him love in other ways by sitting and talking to him, and he's very like brilliant intellectually. Now my next son, he was like, "No, mom, you hugging me," and I had to get over it, and because I, being a therapist, I understood that this is what he needed, so I did
Mm-hmm.
it. But what if I didn't? He may have felt rejection because I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that," but showed love in other ways. And he might grow up and say, "Oh, my mom didn't love me because she didn't give me hugs."
Mm-hmm.
Because the feeling of rejection. And so what we have to do is having more conversations with our youth and adolescents about, I ask my kids all the time, how can I be a better mother to you? Because it opens the door to let them tell me how they need to be loved, because
Mm-hmm.
that's important, because you is no one size fit all. I'm sorry. But also too, parents get different children get different versions of their mom and their dad based on where they are. Because if I'm 15, the way I'm raising my child at 15 versus 25 is different. And
Yeah.
you don't understand that being a single parent or being a teenage parent with no support is not going to work. All you're going to do is have a generational pass through keep happening over and over and over again. And I also sent you a link to the statistics of what happens to single parents when you have single kids. I mean, we have kids raised by single parents. They're more likely to go to jail. They're more likely to become rapists. They're more likely to rob people. They're more likely to do all of these different things. And those things need to be taught to parents, that these are the things that you are setting your child up for when you have a single mother,
Mm-hmm.
because it's more so on the single mothers. Men has the same statistical outcome being a single father as a two-parent household. Single mothers do not.
Singles don't have that advantage because, yeah, men are natural disciplinarians, right?
Yep. And I think
Yeah.
that's the most important thing that children need is discipline. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
people always want to be like, "Oh, but love, haha, cuddle, cuddle, feelings." That sounds great in theory, but
Mm-hmm.
they need discipline, because when they
Yes.
get upset, it's discipline that's going to
Mm-hmm.
keep them in check, not love.
Yeah, especially in their their later, like their preteen years and up, right? And even ironically, you mentioned that because the Prophet Sallallahu he mentioned that if the parents split, then the woman they keep the children for the weaning years, right? When
Mhm.
those young formative years, and then when they reach the age of tamyiz or the age of intellect, then the father gets the children. And I don't see any particularly Black Muslim women practicing this. They practice what other Western Black women practice, and that is weaponizing the system against their exes, which is the system itself is not for Black people. I'm sorry to say it like that, but
Oh,
it is meant to destroy the Black family, and they are participating in that, thinking that they're getting over on their men because the system itself incentivizes them to nuke and destroy their own families. right? So go ahead, Sister Michelle.
But you know what's so problematic now is because being as though we're so many generations into that destruction,
Mm,
that because single mothers, because now we're in a cycle, we're in a full blown cycle.
mm,
But because that has been introduced, and we are in this cycle now, it
mm,
comes to a point that because single women were raising sons, now we have sons who don't know how to raise their sons
mm,
or their children. And so now we're in a cycle where it's hard to break, and a lot of women don't want to give up their kids because they don't understand they participated in the destruction of black men, where
mm,
they can't be the husband and father that they need to be because they have instituted these court systems into our problems.
mm.
And then we're in a full blown cycle. And the only way I feel like the only way to get out of it is people like us, other leaders that come in and start saying, hey, these are some of the things that we're no longer going to tolerate in our community.
Thank you,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you.
On an individual level, it's not going to happen.
Mm,
Our leaders, we have to have a leader. The
mm,
problem is they understand that with leadership and the coming together of people
mm.
is going to destroy their moneymaker.
Exactly,
Well,
exactly.
leadership is accountability.
Yes, yes, and you got to understand the power never concedes. Power fights to stay in power.
Mhm,
So the second that the grassroots recognizes this, that's when everything, the whole mindset will change because we're going to go in expecting a full-fledged fight. We're going to go in expecting a war, and we are going to fight for what is better for us and our community. And the best way to do it, ironically enough, and not for cliche's sake, but the best way to do it is for the sake of Allah. The best, that I mean, that is
Absolutely.
a proven, tried and true method that works 100% of the time,
alhamdulillah,
right?
mashallah.
100% of the time, right? So, but
I,
anyways,
I
I'm going
think.
to get into this article that the sister shared. It's the article is fatherless single mother home statistics. Okay, so many school shooters are a product of broken homes, right? This is from the fixedfamilycourts.com. Okay, school shootings have been increasing in their strong probability that single parent homes that are fatherless, the result of failed social experiments and family courts force children into broken homes with single parents just because parents divorce or separate, even with both parents are fit. Broken homes are leading to adolescent epidemics. This is something we know very well.
Mhm.
Right? As a matter of fact, the Black experiment is living proof of that. Right? Go ahead, brother. Tariq, I know you wanted to hop in there. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, you know, no, I was just gonna make a comment that kids need both mother and father. It's so important that they have the best of both of those experiences, because you know, just in my lived experience, like you need two people. That's the bottom line. I mean, I know sometimes you're forced in situations where it might just be one person and you're trying the
Mm,
best you can, but ideally, I mean, the work is a lot easier, because yeah, I mean, dads are probably more so natural disciplinarians,
mm,
but I find that in my observation, right, even with even with moms, right, they might have that softer side and they
mm,
might give all that tender love and care sometimes. But when you're the only person and you're trying to play both these roles of like nurturer and disciplinarian,
mm,
you could get burnt out. So
Mhm.
you find yourself in situations where, you know, you find yourself in situations where you don't have the capacity to really be able to be like, let me hear this kid out and see what's happening, and you don't have the capacity to really like be who you need to be in that situation. The
mm,
easiest thing to do is to go off. And
mm,
sometimes you got minds going off in situations where they don't really need to go off or they probably shouldn't go off,
Mhm.
but you're exhausted.
mm.
Same thing with just one, same thing, with anybody. Just when you have one person doing a two-person job, man,
Yeah.
you need the
and
best. You need
and,
the best
and this
both.
this this right here, brother Tarek, is the point of the century that Black folk have to understand. We need to keep our families together, right? This nuking and the destruction of the Black family. You're not just destroying a family. You're not just destroying an individual. You know what I mean? you're the if you can't have a black family, you're not going to have a black community. Period. Right?
Mhm.
And many of us have become Muslim, and we can't became Muslim, and we have not used Islam to leverage against the issues in our community. So we become Muslim and we still continue nuking our families. We still continue with the the behaviors that cause destruction within our own
Mhm.
environments, right? Because we haven't gotten to that level which you're talking about right now, right? Seeing the importance of keeping the husband and the wife together, right? This is incredibly important, and it requires sacrifice, and it requires what you call it, diplomacy from both the man and the wife, because we have this idea of what a family looks like, and the idea in the black community is a matriarchy. It's a big mama, right? A big mama's house, and then we have all the aunties, and they running the show and everything like that, and the mom was running the show. This is the idea that we got.
Hmm.
You understand? And the black man is giving little to no importance other than to be a spreader of genetic material. That's it. You know. So what you're saying is very, very important. We have to keep the black family together, 100%. All right. So, and back to this article. The Let's see. The following statistics were submitted by Paul Clemens, a father in this fight, who has shared and compiled research. Much of the research is gender based because there has been strong father initiative over the last decade to get fathers back into children's lives after monotropy standard. Okay, which is, by the way, implemented by mental health workers and court adopted as tender years doctrine. This is where the belief was that the mothers were better suited for parenting children, which drove gender biased family courts policies like tender years doctrine to cause the loss of fathers in children's lives. Now, with black people, right, it was way more vicious and what's the word I'm looking for? It was diabolical.
Mhm.
It was diabolical, right? Right. It's not the same. The situation with white folks is not the same for the situation with black folks. After the civil rights movement, black women were incentivized through welfare programs to kick the black men out the homes. Right. And there's a study on this. It's called the Moynihan Report. It was done in 1968 by Mr. I believe is Richard Moynihan. Right. It's a government study. Right. And at those times, the illegitimacy rate was 25% for black families. Now it's 72%. Right. So, and he was calling it an epidemic at that time. Okay, he was saying this is an epidemic.
Hmm.
Right. So, uh, what he's mentioning here is all of it is real and all of it is true. Right. However, we went through the history of this anyways, like many times. But long story short, right? The feminist movement itself, its history is racist in origin because it started off essentially with chancery courts during the times of slavery, where white women would take their husbands to court for ownership of their slaves and land. Because in those days, when the white woman got married, the husband owned whatever that woman owned. You get me?
Mhm.
So white women would take their husbands to chancery courts. Then slavery ended, and you had the voting rights bill. I think it was 1895 or something like that. And this is when women's suffrage was. You know what women's suffrage was? Women's suffrage was white women fighting for the right to vote because black men got the right to vote, and they were saying in this women's suffrage, how can which Sambo vote who can't read and write? How can they be able to vote before us? And they wanted the right to vote simply because black men were getting the right to vote. They wanted to put a kibosh to that. You understand? So feminism for white folks is not the same for feminism for black folks. These feminists, they weren't trying to break up their families. You get me? After World War II, that's when the banks started coming in because all the men, these white men, they went overseas to fight in World War II and whatnot, and they seen that the white women were stepping up, and they saw an opportunity to double tax this population, and they were the ones who pushed, those pictures with the woman who was doing the bicep thing like this,
Rosie the
whatever.
Riveter.
Yeah, 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 yeah. They're the ones who push that stuff to get women working, right? So they can tax double the population. But they were not trying to break up their families. They just wanted the white man and the white woman to work so they can double tax the population. They were persistent and intentionally trying to break up the black family. And for black feminism, the call was I don't need no man, strong black and independent, right? White women weren't saying I don't need no man, strong white and independent. They weren't saying that. That's something out of the mouths of black women. And so all of this ties into the culture that we see now being pushed and purported as black culture, right? And we have to fight against this, and we can't do it alone. It's not something that, it has to be a communal effort. I know I did a long monologue. I apologize, man. But go ahead. One of y'all can jump in. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. But what I can say is, even back then, black women, we didn't have a problem with our man.
Yeah.
We didn't. And I'm not trying to say like it was for everybody, like all, no. But in general, no, that wasn't our issue.
Yeah.
Our men understood that our strength helped them, to escalate and be whoever it is that they wanted to be. White women had problems with their husbands. We
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. There's no history of black women complaining about black men. It only started in the late 60s, early 70s with the black feminist movement.
Mhm.
That's when they started saying that stuff. There's no history before that. It's always about white men trying to own the slaves, white women trying to get votes instead of black. It's always that fight between white women and the wider black society, which pushed and nurtured the feminist movement to begin with. All right. So go ahead, brother Tariq.
One point that also jumps out at me is just that whole, like, to be real, is like that, even like that whole like free sex movement, right?
Mm,
People, as time moved on, people kind of like were a lot more open about their sexuality, a lot more willing to sleep with whoever, whenever,
Mhm.
and there's no judgment, right? There's no shame. So
mhm.
you have situations where, is mommy's baby, daddy's baby, and that didn't just happen just within the last 20, 30 years. You know, you know, grandmas be having some secrets sometimes, not, and
Mhm.
it's not even, I laugh about it, but it really isn't funny because, like, you know, that it didn't just happen.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's way back in that, after World War II.
Mm,
Um, so a lot of, you look at these kids now and you see what they're going through, but this is the result of the things that their grandparents and their great grandparents went through. I
mhm.
can attest even, and I'm not, I, I, I can attest that, Islam, alhamdulillah, man, Islam saved me. Islam is the reason, when you say Islam is the cure for everything, I wholeheartedly believe that because
Mm,
it made me look at my life in a way that I would never have looked at. I never thought about, I never thought about marriage when I was growing up.
mm,
I never thought about that. That wasn't even going to be considered. Being a Muslim, understanding the rewards of marriage, understanding that that's a sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu that incentivize marriage. But then in turn, but then also, you know, because you have to purify your heart, right?
Mhm.
You have to be sincere in your intentions. That path, that struggle, that led me to kind of like look at past trauma. That led me to look at like, why do I think? Why do I think about this in the way I'm thinking about it?
mm,
Why am I destroyed? Why am I like this to the people who are close to me? Why am I doing things that hurt the people that I see I care about? You
mhm,
know, so it's
Mm.
like Islam was the catalyst for that,
mhm.
because even though we adopt a new belief system, and we understand the oneness of Allah, we understand how to worship Allah correctly. That doesn't erase the past that we have, right?
Yes.
And how do we address that? You know, and
Mm.
I and I think Islam is the catalyst to get you to start doing that.
But
Yes.
I want to bring up something that you said that I thought was interesting about, mama's maybe, papa's maybe, But even back then, when those things happened, right? Guess what they didn't do? They didn't blast all their business. The family still
Yep.
stayed
Nope.
together.
Yeah.
Still stayed together. Pop,
Mhm.
pop,
They didn't blow up their families. They didn't nuke their
Hmm.
families. They
but what white people do? The wife would have been killed.
mm.
Let's be honest. Wife would have been
Yeah.
killed, right? The child, God knows where the child would have been.
Mm, mhm,
Who knows if they would have known who the dad was or not known who the dad was? I don't know if you ever saw the show Them with this white guy. She tried to use her little white privilege to like swindle this guy to kill this black family, and he wound up kidnapping her because he felt he could do that.
mm,
And then when
Mm.
she didn't want to, he shot her and killed her. And it was like, because they were looked at as property. Even when she
mm,
went to the bank, she had $6,000 saved. They said your husband took it all out. You just got $400 left. You got to talk to your husband about that. And
mm,
she couldn't even withdraw her own money from her own account.
mhm,
Mm.
We didn't have a problem in our family dynamics.
mhm,
And even if Papa had a baby around the corner, Papa took care of that baby around the corner.
mhm.
It was a hush hush secret, but not a secret.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's like it's like a almost like a open type secret that kept the community together. You know what I mean?
And
Hmm.
Now it's not like that at all. It's
no,
Is
yeah,
going to
I had,
change.
yeah.
and the craziest thing is, doing counseling with Muslims, I find
Mm,
them to be the most hard headedest than my Kovar clients.
mm,
I had a sister, literally, it was couples, and he was like, he had a baby with somebody else, and she was like, well, she's like, I don't care about that. I just be wanting to know where he's going.
mm,
One, he's the husband. He needs to know where you're going to protect you. That's
mm,
number one. Y'all got this all wrong. Number
mhm,
two, I said, what's the difference right now with him having a baby with somebody else and him marrying her? She's like, well,
mm,
that's the right thing to do. I said, well, yes, that is absolutely the right thing to do. I said, that is, but that's not what I'm asking you. I said, that's the cliche answer.
mm,
What is the difference with him marrying her and having a baby with her right now?
mm,
He's like, I think it's the money. I said, but you still spending money because you got a baby with her now.
mm,
What's the difference?
What's the money regardless?
You still spending money regardless.
mm,
It's his wife because he's still sleeping with her. He's still going over there. He's still spending money over. He's still doing everything. No, what you want to be able to say is she's a homewrecker.
mm,
You want to be able to say that he's cheating and he's wrong.
mhm,
You want to be able to say that you're a victim.
mhm,
And I had to tell him she don't love you. She love her feelings more than she love you because she would
mhm,
love your akhirah.
mm.
But no, all right. So she withdrew him out of therapy, which was strange.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ajib, Ajib. No, man, we no. Just stay in the therapy. Ajib, Ajib. Go ahead, brother. Talk.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still processing that. You know.
You will be. I be looking. I be like, what?
Yeah.
And like a lot of times, women will come with their husbands, like, yeah, she about to be on my side. And then when I get into their behinds, they be like, what? I'm like, no,
Mhm.
I'm no.
Because
Islam
that's how you
was.
really that's how you build a community. That's this is the way you do it.
Mhm,
You know what I mean? Like the therapist has a very important role because especially therapists within our own community, they will come with a perspective, that is tailored to us, right? So when they're seeing you, as a black Muslim woman, you are telling them the things that they need to know in order to keep their family together, which keeps the community together, right? As opposed to their friends, when they go to their friends, what are their friends going to tell them?
Girl, he cheating on you. Oh my
Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. And
Mhm.
it's totally counterproductive, man.
yeah,
It's totally counterproductive. It causes more destruction, right? Go ahead, brother Tark.
Yeah. So I think that I think the a big element is just lack of trust. Um, I think over the years, black men don't really have much trust in black women, and black women don't have much trust in black men many times. And you need and trust is needed to really build anything,
absolutely.
um, because
Now, brother, I want to give you a blast on that one. Okay, because this right here, the thing that you're mentioning, if you just said that one sentence by itself, that sums up the black relationship for the last 30, 40 years, right? The lack of trust. And that, in my humble opinion, is not something that is organic. This is
Mhm.
something that is manufactured within the black community, right?
Oh
This is
yeah.
something that is you could say it's interpolated from outside into the community so that we have these situations where trust is continuously and persistently broken, and the lack of trust is now always perpetually there for generation upon generation upon generation, right? And we see
Mhm.
it within the music. We see it in the way that we talk with each other. We see it with the sisterhood. We see it with now in modern times we have this red pill type stuff. You know
Oh,
what I mean? We see it. Yeah. Sister was showing it, rolled her eyes like, oh, you know. So yeah, so it's something which, if black people were left without entertainment and these type of things, right, then I believe that all of that would just naturally dissipate because we will be acting in our own best interest. But that, sorry, go ahead, brother. You just mentioned about the trust. I see you back there, Abdullah. I'm gonna bring you on. Just give me a minute, all right? Go ahead, brother. Go
Yeah,
ahead, brother.
no, I mean, trust is important. I mean, oftentimes when doing couples work, people don't even trust each other enough to say like they don't trust each other enough to say how they feel. Really, they'll call a girlfriend or they'll call or they'll talk to a friend and,
Hmm.
and say exactly how they feel and get all kinds of get all kinds of like backhands and all that type of stuff. But then when it comes to the person that they actually need to express this to, they won't say anything because there's no trust that they're going to be there's no trust that they're even going to be understood.
Hmm.
Um, so I find it interesting just getting people to listen to each other.
Hmm.
You know, just that's usually where a lot of work starts. Is just listening to each other. You
mhm.
know, just not coming up with a defense,
Hmm.
not coming up with a explanation, but just really sitting there and listening to what the other person has to say and making sure you understood what that person said before you respond to that. And many times you listen, it's like, okay, yeah, what you hear? You know, what did you hear Bilal say?
Hmm.
And it gets repeated. It's like that, he
That's
didn't
not
say
what he said.
that. He said,
He didn't even
he
mean
said
that.
he said he's going to go around. He said he's going to go around the corner and buy a bottle, a case of milk.
Yeah.
And you saying that he said he was going to steal it? That's not what he said.
Yeah.
You know.
No, and you know what I love too when it comes to communication. I feel like with women, and I tell them a lot, is you're too wordy. You
Mm,
are too wordy. Men
mm,
brain
Yeah.
do not function like that.
mm,
You have to keep it short, sweet, and simple. Get to the point. I bet y'all want to go around the whole world. I said, I understood it because I'm a woman. Like,
mm,
I understood what you meant. I said,
mm,
but what if I told you they have a whole soliloquy of all this stuff? And I'm like, did you want to say this? And I'll give him one sentence. They'd be like, yes. I'm like, why didn't you just say that? He can understand that.
mhm,
He doesn't understand all of that. I said, and then what happens is you're emotionally manipulating him because all he heard was, because we're in this age of feelings. Oh, I hurt her feelings. Oh my God. But he don't even know what's going on.
Hmm.
I'd be like, sure. I'd be like, how can you shorten?
And you know what else? There is an element, particularly with black women, right? Especially among black women, to basically foster distrust amongst black men, right? So much so that black women will have cheering sessions when a woman leaves her man. You know what I mean? It's almost like a party.
I'm guilty of that. I did have a divorce party.
it's, it's not gonna lie. It's almost like a party, man. Like if you see this, like I haven't seen, like, I see it on Facebook all the time, right? And every single time one of these sisters destroys her marriage, you only see it with black women. They're not giving condolences. They're like, "You go, girl." And like, it's like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And you could do better and blah 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 blah.
So I am going to come to my black women's defense, though. Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
we're going to beat them down because I do disagree with that. Even though I did it, there was my it wasn't a Jahiliyyah day, but we want to. It was a Jahiliyyah time. I'm just going to say.
Okay.
And I disagree with doing that now.
Mm.
However, what I also will say is that again, when we have this arrested development with our men,
Yeah.
it's we get and partially I always say the state of affairs with our community is men's fault
Hmm.
because men are the protectors and maintainer of women,
Hmm.
and they have to step up and do their job
Hmm.
regardless of what. Because see, and the reason why I say do their job is because women who are combative and not all, stop marrying them, stop having children with them.
Hmm.
You are, as a man, stop doing that.
Yeah.
We'll say, or we'll put onus on, like, you shouldn't have had a baby with that man. We are biologically programmed to want a husband.
Hmm.
That's just how it is. Our fathers are supposed to be maintaining us in a sense of everything, whereas looking for a husband, making sure we have a good husband, growing us up to be proper women. That is not
Yeah.
happening. What we're having is bitter women raising women. So it's like it is our fault technically because we are raising us to be like that.
Hmm.
But also the absence of a father, because fathers teach you how to be ladylike, and don't know you can't be you're a little girl. Like little girls should be loved like this, and they
Well, when it comes to
are.
and impregnating these heifers, I'm like, I'm sorry to say, I'm with you on that one, man. Like, brothers, please stop spreading your genetic material with these heifers, man. Just stop it, man. You're not making the world better. Just trust me on this one. All right, I'm gonna bring brother Abdullah on. All right, Salaam Alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, brother Abdullah.
Mhm.
1 second, let me just unmute you here. 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. We can't hear you.
All them heifers.
Okay, go ahead, bro.
Can you hear me now?
Yo, we
Mhm.
can hear you. Turn off the YouTube, bro. You're getting echo. We're getting echo. Turn off
I
YouTube.
don't have YouTube on. Hold on. I don't have. Is it better now?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I minimized it on the side.
No,
Salam
even the
alaikum,
mic
brothers
is
and sisters.
terrible. The mic is
Salam
like,
alaikum, guys.
bro, the mic is like, it's hurting. The mic is
Why?
mesquine.
Yeah, it's.
The mic,
Hold,
the mic needs
let me
Anjala.
let me let me tune it down. Is it better now? Is
The
it
mic
better?
is so low. You got to turn up your mic, bro.
Okay.
Turn up your mic.
Yep, I
But
tune it up all the way.
but it also might be
It's,
his position in the room because
it
sometimes
could be. Yeah, and there's echo coming from your side. Lots of echo.
Is it now okay?
Turn. Did you turn YouTube off? You have to turn
Yeah,
YouTube off, or
everything
and
is off.
Facebook.
Yeah, everything is off. I am just hearing you guys. I'm in the
The
in the
room.
program.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
So, wallahi, jazakallah khair. This is something that we need, and it's
Jazakallah khair.
something that needs to that at some point we need to start, like
Yes.
remedying what have been done at some point. But yet, at the same time, every day when I go to YouTube and TikTok and I see all this, I kind of feel like heartbroken. society that promiscuity is just so much adamant and so much like braced upon. You just said like brothers, stop spreading your genetics. If you look, flip the coin around and you look at society, that's looked upon something nice, something good, something like as a manhood. And unless
So
we don't,
if you guys like, brother, you're talking about promiscuity amongst the people, right?
yes, promiscuity among
Yeah,
the people, especially
yeah.
brothers.
The sound is so low, bro. So low.
Let me
If you
turn it
could,
up.
you can fix your mic.
Yeah, I'm on my cell phone, so let me
Yeah,
see.
you're so.
Yeah, I just don't want it to be like let me go move around. Maybe it's the TV that I'm close to. Is it better now?
Yeah, go ahead and talk. Let's see if we
Yeah.
can get you in.
Let me get in here. Is it a little bit better now?
Go ahead, give it a shot. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what I was saying is like we like look into that promiscuity as a manhood and a sister. I have to agree with her. The brothers are the nucleus of the family.
Mhm.
You can't imagine how many sisters I have seen that are honest and like respectful, but yet on one day he flips around and he cheats with her own girlfriend. Do you see what I mean? And that go with
Yeah,
a lot
so
of
the brother he's saying that promiscuity is seen as a thing of manhood within black culture, right? So, brother Abdul, I'm gonna remove you from the chat because the sound is very low, right? But we're gonna talk about that, inshallah. Hopefully, you can come back with the mic check, inshallah. Right? We'll
okay.
love to have you on. Okay.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah
All
khair.
right, all right. Go ahead.
Jazakallah khair.
Right. So that's a very important point that the brother mentioned, that promiscuity is seen as a sign of manhood, a sign of rajula, particularly within the black community, right? And so much so that all of our music talks about it. It doesn't make a difference if it's R&B, if it's hip hop, if it doesn't make a difference. So go ahead.
which is a trauma response
Hmm.
because ultimately you have to go against your own nature to do that.
Hmm.
Like we love to try to say like, oh, men are um, poly by nature and blah 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 blah. I don't believe that. I
Hmm.
believe that men are just protectors and maintainers, and that Allah has given them the ability to have multiple wives, to have the ability to satisfy multiple wives, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they want to just go around and just have, sex with anything with two legs. And I
Hmm.
think that, that comes with being an adult, having discipline. You
Hmm.
know, I have a hard time with believing that. Yes, they have testosterone. Yes, they may want sex more than more than women. But I don't believe that means because they want to have sex with more often than women, that means they want to have sex with more women because they want sex more. I don't believe that. I believe a lot of that is just a trauma response to all of the indoctrination that's just spilled into our culture and our society. And we just love sin and we're attracted to sin.
Hmm.
And we're attracted because of our own nuffs and
What
whispers.
What do you think about that, brother Tariq?
Yeah, so very true. I think that depending on a person's background, sexual behavior can become very much a compulsive behavior, and also used as like a medicine, right? Because you're living this life of pain, and, and how do you feel better? You sleep with as many people as you can, and you
Hmm.
find and early on those are the messages about sex, right? That you could be the man by just doing as many, I mean, just by having as much sex as possible. Those are the early messages, you know, that's hard to break out of, you know, that's hard to break out of, and it causes a lot of problems and a lot of issues because then you do have people coming into Islam thinking that like, yeah, the first thing I'm gonna do is get 2, 3 wives, but don't have the plan to make that work. Nothing wrong with polygyny, but just do you have a plan to make that work?
Mhm,
Have you thought about the future of your children? Have you thought about the future of your family? Or are you just trying to, get what you could get?
mhm,
I do believe that men do desire multiple women, no doubt about that. Men want to have as many women as they possibly can. They have that desire in them, right? However, the ones who act upon that desire just to sleep with just a whole bunch of randoms, and the ones who are disciplined enough not to do it, it's a night and day between their behaviors, right? For example, recently we had this thing going on all over YouTube. Man, I try to avoid talking about these YouTubian elites so much, man. They are so terrible. They're so terrible. I'm sorry to say, all these YouTubian elites. Ugh.
Mm.
Anyways, right? Uh, they had this thing where they were pushing Andrew Tate for so long, right? And they were also pushing this guy Sneeko, okay, for so long, right? And guess who was the only person that was like the voice of reason on all YouTube? You guessed it's the Feachaz, right? The Feachaz was saying, you know, these are not the types of people that you should be pushing in front of the Muslims, right?
Yeah.
Regardless if they just became Muslim, you shouldn't be pushing them in front of them. Let them, develop on their own first. And
Mhm.
once they developed, like Loon did, like Napoleon did, they were in that life too. But now you don't catch them still in that life and still trying to be Muslim. They're like invested in Islam. You get me? They can get multiple women if they want, all this kind of stuff, but they're not pushing that. You're allowing these guys to come on your channels, talk about they're making dawah, and the same when they go back to their channels, they're having threesomes, they're having this is what you're doing, okay,
Yeah.
right? So when you look at these guys, right, which family is looking at Andrew Tate or Sneeko? Which Muslim family is saying, you know what, I want my daughter to marry that guy? Ain't nobody saying that. Nobody's saying that. Why? Because there's no sexual discipline involved in that. You get me? Right? But if somebody repents and turns his life around, then the discipline is what makes it desirable. You get me? And so let me just bring on Brother Abu Bora if he's still there. Salaam Alaikum, Brother Abu Bora. How are you doing? One second, I got it unmuted. Or bring on Brother Abdullah too. You there, Abu Bora?
Salaam Alaikum.
Salam alaikum, I got you.
Salam.
What you got for us, bro? Abu Bora? I don't know if he's still there. We heard him. We heard him briefly. Okay, let me just move Abu Bora until he gets his mic situation resolved, and we'll bring in Brother Abdullah. Hopefully, his mic's situation is resolved. One second. Bring in Brother Abdullah. Family, like, subscribe, share. Hit me up on Patreon. Hit me up on PayPal. Buy me a coffee and all that good stuff. We, the Black Muslim grassroots, we the only ones doing this, right?
That's right.
We don't
That's right.
get funded by no government. All right. We are doing this for y'all. Okay. Go ahead, Brother Abdullah. Assalamu alaikum. Wait, one second. Let me unmute you. One second. One second. Let me unmute you here.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Brother
Yeah.
Abdullah. Go ahead.
Is it a little bit better now? Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What?
That's still the sound is still trifling, bro. Your sound has COVID, man.
Okay.
Your,
No, no, no.
your, your
My
sound
voice,
has malaria from Somalia, man.
my
You
voice
gave
is
your mic
okay.
malaria. What's going on, bro? You have
Listen,
to give your mic Angela, not malaria. What's going on, bro?
Anjara will make you worse.
Don't make it worse.
Yes.
Go ahead, bro.
Uh,
What you got for us?
the other point I would like to follow up with what I said was that we need to educate our sisters. We need to change the cultures, not the sisters only, sisters and brothers. We need to have a culture change, and the only thing we can do is that we need to give the da'wah to these brothers and sisters, have them understand Islam. Right now, if you look at it in a way,
Mm.
Uh-oh, we lost Brother Abdullah. We lost Brother Abdullah.
that's another thing too. We don't
be
remember when.
promiscuous and to
Okay,
do
he's
with
back.
their.
We've
Can you
got
hear
back a
me,
brother Abdullah.
guys?
Brother Abdullah, man, what are you doing, man? What are you doing?
I can hear.
You
I
can't
can
hear?
hear now.
You can't hear? Okay, maybe there's something going
Can you
on.
hear me?
We can hear you fine. Well, not fine, but we can hear you, but we can kind of hear
No,
you.
no volume for me.
Okay, brother, we gotta let you go, man. We gotta let you. Your mic is like tripping. It's trifling. Okay, all right, we'll come. We'll try to get you back later,
I think
inshallah.
I'm muted.
All right, brother Abu Bora. Abu Bora, you too?
Guys, I can hear you now, man, but it's like very hard to hear you guys. I don't know why.
Okay, we can hear you fine. With brother Abdullah's different. We can't hear him, but with you can't hear us, but we can hear you fine. Go ahead, brother
Yeah,
Abu
the
Bora.
audio is very low on you guys, and
Okay, what you got for us, bro?
I'll be back because I think I know what it is.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. Okay. Welcome to the Ghetto Podcast,
It's probably
where everything here is dusty and trifling, and
it's probably them trying to use their cell phones.
yeah, it's probably it. Yeah. Okay, family. So let's get into this article real quick. 1 second. Okay, so 37.8 single mothers are divorced, 41% never married, and only 6.5% widows. Brookings Institute assessing the impact of welfare reform on single mothers, part two. The strongest predictor of whether a person will end up in prison is that they were raised by a single parent. This is something we know very well. Okay. Father absence and youth incarceration. The paper presented the manual meeting of American Sociologists Association, San Francisco, 1998. In 1996, 70% of inmates in state juvenile detention, we talked about this as well, centers serving long sentences were raised by single mothers. Wade Horn, there is no substitute for parents. This is something that we know very, 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 very well, right? We know this very well, and there has to be a change in the culture, particularly for the kids, right? Because this now is becoming a generational thing,
Mhm.
right? There has to be a shift in the culture, a shift in the mindset, and a shift in the way that we act and speak, right? Because of the kids, right? So go ahead. I'll let you guys touch up on that.
Yes. So, like what I was brought up earlier is that having a single parent home is a number one predictor of just suicide rate, teen pregnancy,
Mhm.
addiction, um, and that's why I, when you had said earlier about the push for getting men out of the homes, because
Mhm.
they already understood this.
Yes.
They already understood the
Mhm.
the data didn't just recently come about. I'm quite sure, like, it's just we're in an epidemic of single parents, but I'm quite sure there was always single parents, and they saw the predictions of what happened, and it's like, okay, let me take the father out of the home. They're in war. Now I'm putting the mother to work. Oh, now I'm gonna give you welfare. The man can't be in there.
Mhm.
If you got a home, put your kids in school. Let teachers and everybody else raise them, indoctrinate you with whatever societal thing that we want you to know
Mhm.
about what life is, and then we have all these issues and these problems and concerns
Mhm.
because we're letting other people teach our kids. We're letting them teach our generation. Next,
Yeah. Go ahead, brother Tariq.
Yeah. So what I want to say is just because I grew up in a single parent home, and one thing I've come to realize is that even after you escape all these statistics, right,
Mhm,
um, there still is that challenge of like, okay, well, I didn't necessarily have an example of what to do, so what do I do? And in my experience, I've seen a lot of men overcompensate
Mm.
once you finally get that opportunity, because you understand if you never had I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, because you never had a father, you're not involved in your kid's life."
Mm,
Some that happens sometimes, but then a lot of times it doesn't happen,
mm,
right? You do, the opposite happens where you are in your kid's life, but you overcompensate because now you feel like you have to be there. You know what it's like not to have somebody there, and you would never want anybody to have that experience. That's
mm,
not a bad thing in and of itself, but it can be a bad thing when it gets to the point where now you're not able to cooperate with your spouse, or God forbid, you're not together anymore, and you are trying to co-parent. That can be a headache a little bit because now you find yourself going to extremes, and now you find yourself being disagreeable in certain situations because you're so adamant of like, and I've been there personally. I'm so
mm,
adamant because I've been through a divorce, right? And I'm trying to co-parent my girls, and I know, and I'm trying to make sure that they don't end up in the streets, and so you find yourself trying to try so hard
mm,
that now it's like you're overkill.
mm.
You overkill now, and now the disagreements start to happen. And when the disagreements start to happen, now you start to feel like, well, this person's trying to keep me from being a parent to my child. Not
Yep.
necessarily that they're trying to keep you from being a parent to your child. You're just doing too much and you don't realize it.
Mm,
And 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 you feel that rejection. And I mean, I've been through it personally. I can't tell you how many people told me, "Yo, stop trying,
mm.
stop trying. Just just let it go on.
Yeah.
She'll figure it
Cut your
out."
losses. Cut your losses.
And it's like really just like that,
Mm,
you know. And I'm thankful to Allah. I've never done that, but just to see how easy that is
mm,
because of that. But and I think that's where therapy does come into play
mm.
because you have the opportunity to break generational curses.
Yes, we got a lot of them.
Like,
We got a
yeah,
lot.
you got the opportunity to do that. The therapist ain't going to do it, right? I always tell people, I ain't do nothing. I'm just with you.
Mm,
I'm just with you. I could point things out. I'm listening to you. I'm walking with you on you, but all the work is yours.
mm.
And I think when we don't do that work, it perpetuates that cycle. You
Yeah.
know, where where you have more single parent homes,
Mm.
you have more children growing up without dads being involved, and just repeating toxic behaviors over and over.
Mhm.
All right, so I'm gonna get both of you to give your last thoughts, right? And then we'll call it a night, inshallah.
Sure.
Right. So we'll start with Sister Renee, and then we'll go to the brother Tariq.
Mm. And so, what I would want to leave you ladies and gentlemen, with is that I just hope that if you didn't get anything out of this, that you understand that a lot of the things that we're doing in our communities is programming, it is trauma, it is profiting off of you. And when you start to realize your buying power, when I say buying power, I just mean it in a general sense. Your buying power to come together and to organize, it will make our community much better. What we have to get away from is, our favorite line is, "Oh, I don't trust nobody." You don't have to trust anyone. You need to start trusting the law, because the law is the one that is the protector. And that's what it comes is important to know the names of Allah, because the law is the protector. You trust in Him, and you operate in a way that you trust Him, because any weapons formed against you, they're not going to come to fruition as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do with your good intentions to make our community better. Other people, rotten fruit always fall off the trees. You
Mm,
don't have to worry about doing it.
mm.
And that's what I want to leave you for my.
Okay, brother Tariq.
Yeah, I just want to leave. What I'll say is just that just recognize that you're much more powerful than what you are. Um, like that, I think that is the biggest thing that we have been duped into is believing that we can't do anything,
Mm,
believing that we just fall, like it's already decided for us, right? Somebody already decided we ain't gonna be nothing, and that's just how it is. Like, and you're much more powerful than you are. You do have a choice, to break those curses. It's not easy, but with the help of Allah, like that's completely possible.
Mm. And my final thoughts is family. As the brother mentioned before, we have generational curses. And the idea that you're going to curb these curses by yourself is ludicrous. Okay. Life is about, community. The Prophet ﷺ, he didn't spread Islam totally by himself, right? Rather, Allah blessed him with Sahaba, right? And if you look at the life of the Sahaba, it's so similar to the black experience. All the trauma that they were going through, all the things that they were doing. You're talking about people who used to, murder each other in tribal warfare. Now we have gang warfare. You're talking about people who used to, kill their babies through burying their baby girls, alive. We have this abortion thing going on in the black community. They suffered from, some had alcoholism with them as well. And so when Allah revealed the verses of alcohol, He didn't just say alcohol is haram in the Quran. No, He revealed it in stages so that they can get off the alcohol in stages. We have to have mercy and rahmah with our people. You're not going to do this, like, you're not going to make change alone. The thing you're going to make change alone is just, it's backwards. Nobody changes by themselves, which is why therapy is so important. It's so important. You will not find not a single successful person that say, I did it all on my own. No, no. If we look at any success. I don't care if it's Michael Jordan. I don't care if it's Bill Gates. I don't care who it is. But they all their successes came through the support system that they had around them.
Mhm.
You get it? So if you're going to build a community, you're not going to. It's the same with children. You're not going to raise a child by yourself. There's an old African proverb that says, it takes a village to raise a child.
Mhm.
This is how you're going to raise your children, right? And the village itself has to be the gatekeepers of the culture that is coming to the children, and we cannot do it on our own. And this element that we have within our community, this destructive element that we have, destroying families, nuking families, breaking up our families, all this kind of stuff, it needs to end. It needs to end. We have to build communities together, right? Keep your families together, right? Keep your communities together, and don't think you can do all on your own. Life don't work like that. Okay? But Barakallah Fink, I want to thank my guests again, Brother Tariq and Sister Michelle Renee. It's been a great honor once again. I hope to have you guys on again, and maybe we can do this another time. Jazakumullah khair, and I'll see you guys again soon. Subhanallah, bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.